Hey guys, calling back with another video this weekend. Here to share another record and another board game. Today I got Gary Newman's The Pleasure Principle. This was Gary Newman's solo debut in 1979. This was put into a category called synth pop because it uses a lot of synthesizer, and apparently Gary Newman was highly influenced by the band or the group Kraftwerk, and they do a lot of synthesizer, robotic type music, um, which I will feature them probably in a future video because I have several of their albums and I have several of Gary Newman's. Now the song that kind of hit the charts on this record, and you all know, and some of you probably heard, is called Cars, and that was pretty much the one hit off of this record, and because of that, he was kind of put into a one-hit wonder category, which all of his albums are pretty good. His earlier ones are pretty similar to this one. Um, I really like his music a lot. Uh, here's the inside sleeve, and you can kind of see where this has some Kraftwerk influence, and that they're wearing all the same outfits there. Um, Highly 1980s, or this is almost 1980, 1979 type stuff. Maybe a little bit of Devo in there too. Um, now that album went to number one in the United Kingdom, or the song did, Cars, and here it was number nine, like I said earlier. Um, the top song in 1979 was My Sharona, the Knack. Now, it's not necessarily the number one song of 1979. It's just one of them that's up there uh, with a lot of other songs in 1979. Some hit movies back then were Superman, which I seen downtown here when I was in grade school, and I remember me and my friend walked about, I would say, 2 to 3 miles in the snow in a snowstorm to go and see Superman. um, Also, a big movie was the Amityville Horror. I originally read the Amityville Horror probably when I was in junior high, I would think, somewhere in there in the 80s. Um, and my mom had a lot of influence on me with those types of movies, and she was real big into paranormal books and movies and psychics and all that type of stuff. Um, because later on, I would say in the late '90s, there's a husband and wife team that came to Lawrence, and we went to a lecture to see them, and they were all big into paranormal, and they were behind that movie, the Amityville Horror, and they were paranormal investigators, and their names were Ed and Lorraine Warren. I just remember them coming to Haskell even, and they toured the school and were trying to find some ghosts, I guess. And my mom had a pretty good conversation with them. I remember I just kind of sat in the back of the lecture hall and watched her go up and visit with them and shake their hands and everything. I know she was a huge fan of their work. Um, and they went on even after they, I think they both passed away now at this point, but there's still movies coming out with their influence, and some of the latest ones are The Conjuring, Annabelle, and The Nun, and they all have a little bit about Ed and Lorraine Warren in those movies. Um, I just think it was kind of neat. I got to meet them uh, before they went into the spirit world. Maybe they're here, Ed and Lorraine Warren, somewhere. Anyway, if you're into that type of stuff. Anyways, A gallon of gas was 88 cents. And a quote from a movie was, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning." Those of you who are into the movies, can you guess what that might be from? I love the smell of napalm in the morning. That was from the movie Apocalypse Now. Um, and the Sony Walkman was a big Christmas gift during that time, since we're coming up on that season. Um, and now I'm going to show you a game from 1979, a board game. I actually have one to match the record this time. That's kind of what I wanted to go with this, but is to match a record the same year as the game I'm showing you, but that hasn't always worked out, but this time it did. And the game I have is All the King's Men. Now this came out by Parker Brothers in the United States in 1979. It's kind of related to the chess type game. And I'll show you the board. Oh, we almost had a blackout there. All the King's Men. Maybe that was them. Did you flicker the lights in here? Anyway, All the King's Men. See, it looks like a chessboard. And the pieces also highly resemble chess. This is a king right here. Except in this game, it's a lot easier. It probably takes 15 to 20 minutes to play one game of this, because the arrows on here are showing you which way your character or your pawn can move. See, if you're here, you can move this way, up or down. Or if you say you're on one of these diagonals, you can only move where the arrows show you to move. Forwards, backwards, corner to corner, or whatever it is. And I'm going to show you the pieces a little bit better here. You only deal with 3 characters in this game, and that's your king here, and a pawn, or in this instance, it's a archer, and a knight, and they all. The object of the game is to capture the king, just like in chess. This is going to get awkward, but I wanted to show you the movements that these players can make. Like your king here, he sits on his throne up here on the top, and he can only move one space, this way, left, or right, or whichever space he happens to land on, like this one. He can go to the corners. I'm not going into corners. There we go. Up or down like that. And your pawn or your archer is also, he can only just move one space. And your knight, he's the only one that has a different movement from the others. He can move from one side of the board to the other in one jump or one movement, or to the corners like this. And that's just a brief little showing of All the King's Men. Now that game actually is originated from a game that came out in 1970 in Britain by Parker Brothers, and it was called Smeths. The Ninny chess game. And it looked a lot different from All the King's Men, except it had the same board with different colors and things. And the characters were little cute kids-like characters, like a hunchback and an elf or something. But it was All the King's Men. They just plastered a different face on it for the United States, and I don't know why they did that. I guess because they thought we were more serious about our games or something. So they took the kids theme off of it, which I think I would have liked it if they would have left that intact, because it was actually a more colorful game and it gave it kind of a cute aspect, I guess. Um, that game is actually very hard to find now. It's called Smiths, and it's on the my backdrop here in the back. If I'll put it back there for you guys to look at. And that's my very mumbled, jumbled video for today. Um, and thanks for joining me. Colin, over and out, and Weirdos Unite, and play more board games.